Sleep, Ojas, and death. There are certain preparations that one can do for death involving sleep and generation of Ojas. Now, is there any connection between sleep and death? Fundamentally, the dynamism of the physical has to touch the inertia of the non physical. This is the Shiva Shakti principle. Shiva is inertia, Shakti is dynamism. Everything in the physical universe has to go through that. It is happening in so many ways in existence. Whether it is an atom, an amoeba, a human being, the planet, the solar system, or the universe. All of them are going in these cycles of dynamism and inertia because this is the fundamental cycle. Lifespans are different depending upon who you are, what you are, but it is the same principle in operation. Inhalation, exhalation, wakefulness, sleep, day, night, life, death, creation, dissolution. All these are fundamentally the same process. In a way, what you call sleep is also like death. You die, but you wake up with the same old goddamn body. Actually, even with sleep, if you are very tired and go to bed after a good sleep, it feels like you woke up with a new body. Death is when you went to sleep and woke up to find the body has shrunk. You have to grow it again. Now, if you are conscious during this transition between the states of dynamism and inertia, you may get off the bus. If you can move from wakefulness to sleep while remaining fully conscious, you will very effortlessly move from life to death also fully conscious. Because in its fundamental essence, it is not different. It is just moving from dynamism to inertia. If you are able to move consciously from one state to another in these cycles from Shakti to Shiva, then you have transcended a whole lot of things. You can try this with your sleep tonight. When you are falling asleep, when you are going from the state of wakefulness to sleep, see if you can be aware at that moment. If you can be aware at that moment, then you can be aware at that moment when you go from body to bodiless state. Most people sleep without any awareness, but that final moment when you are transiting from wakefulness to sleep, if you can simply be aware, you will be awake in your sleep. If you can manage this awareness, something tremendous will happen. Now, if you consciously bring some quality to the last few moments of your falling asleep, that will continue into your sleep as well. Let us say you make the moment of falling asleep very loving or happy within yourself. You will see that quality will continue through the sleep also. That is exactly what will happen with death also, but far more enhanced. If at the final moment a certain quality is brought in, then that quality will continue. Instead of learning to stay awake when you are sleeping, which is much more difficult, you can learn to sleep when you are awake. This is easier to get. If you do some sadhana, you can get it. This is what happens in Shunya meditation. You are awake, but you are asleep. The body thinks you are asleep. That is why it drops the metabolism. But you are awake. When you are sitting in Shunya, suddenly the body thinks you are gone, and in your experience, your hand disappears, your leg disappears, and so on. You kind of sneaked up on the body. The body does not know you are awake, but if one thought arises, suddenly it realizes that you are sneaking up on it, and the legs and hands come back. Staying awake in your sleep will take much more, but sleeping when you are awake is a possibility. But if you learn to maintain awareness during either of these transitions, it will help you immensely to go through the transition from the embodied to the disembodied state. A much simpler but not so effective way forward is Isha Kriya. The process of death can also be greatly assisted if you are able to generate or gather a lot of ojas. In some Far East cultures, an enlightened being is referred to as an enso. The word enso means a circle. Why a circle? Why do you think your automobile wheels are all circular? Triangular wheels would be jazzier, isn't it? Why is it circular? Not triangular or rectangular or whatever. Because anything that is circular has the least amount of resistance. So an enlightened being is referred to as an enso. Not because they are round of body, but because they have generated sufficient ojas that their passage through life and death happens with the least amount of resistance. In yogic culture, this is sort of fondly or mischievously referred to as stealing from the earth. This body is a loan that you have taken from Mother Earth. She is very generous with this, but when it comes to reclaiming, she is very stringent. She will not let you take even one atom as a souvenir. She will collect every atom back. So the yogis learned how to steal from the earth. That is, they convert the physical into the non-physical. Now she cannot claim it back. She cannot recognize it. This non-physical thing is known as ojas. Sometimes there are people on certain types of sadhana, and during that time they will eat huge volumes of food. Usually it is handled in a seclusion so people don't get to see these things. They eat the kind of volumes that no human body can consume. They eat 10 people's food, but they will not gain an ounce, and they will not have any kind of health problems. If you eat that much food, your stomach would burst, but they will not gain any weight because at that particular phase they are transforming the physical into the non-physical. Normally, the food that you eat becomes flesh and blood, but if you do certain things with your system, it will transform the physical into the non-physical. You will develop ojas, not body. If you have sufficient ojas around you, your passage through life and death will become very effortless. You will go through the whole process smoothly. Having ojas gives you a certain body when you lose yours. It is like you are not made for water. You are not a fish. So if you are lost in the ocean, you would like to have at least a piece of wood. A piece of wood would mean a lot in those circumstances. If you have one piece of katumaram, it is good enough. If we have two pieces of katumaram, you can ride and go where you want. So when you lose your physical body, if you have a piece of body, you will see you can direct your boat which way to go. That is the intent of developing ojas. If you have ojas, then you also lubricate your life so that your movement through this world also becomes easy. So how does one gather ojas? The kriyas that you practice in the morning and evening are one way of generating ojas. If you are doing kapalbhati, if you do it powerfully enough, you develop ojas. Right now, when you do kapalbhati, you may feel the general heat in the face and head. That is okay for health and well-being. If you do proper kapalbhati, it will become one-pointed. Heat will get generated at one point, just at the top of your head. If you do kapalbhati like that, then ojas will develop. Right now, the brahmacharis are doing various sadhanas of Surya Kriya. If you do that, ojas will develop. The kumbhaka sadhana that they practice will develop an enormous amount of ojas. When you develop ojas, if you watch carefully, you will not have a clear cut shadow. Because of the ojas, the light will get confused or diffused, erasing of physical boundaries not by damage but by enveloping oneself with ojas is also yoga or union.